All right. Happy Sunday, everybody. This is Jared O'Levin Green with another edition of Southern Baller Show. Uh, I have Coach 67 Sports TV on here with me again. One of my LDBC brothers. How you doing, Coach 67?
All is well, bro.
Good. That's good to hear. That's good to hear, man. Not everybody right now is doing well, so that's good to hear.
Yeah,
Another day above ground is a blessing, ain't it?
it's a blessing, big time, bro.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So, what we're going to talk about today, we're just going to freestyle on the Celebration Bowl. Jackson State versus uh, North Carolina Central. It was a very good game, one of the best games that I've seen as far as Celebration Bowl wise in a minute. A very good game. Um, but we're going to kind of just break the game apart. If you don't know, Jackson State was not victorious, so the Coach Prime did not get out here winning his the Celebration Bowl as he hoped. Um, but they made a valiant effort, taking the game over the overtime with a miraculous catch by Travis Hunter in the back of the end zone. In the back of the end zone, so that's very. It was a very entertaining game. Also, the tight end, I'm forgetting his name. They did a play where it was a pass to the, I want to say, second string tight end.
I'm
And
thinking
he,
third string, you myself.
third string, yeah. Third string tight end, and he dropped the ball. And then they had one more play, but the North Carolina secondary and defense in general did a great job of clogging the passing lanes, and Shador had no choice but to throw it out of bounds. And that pretty much won North Carolina Central the game. So kudos and big ups to those North Carolina Central Eagles in Durham. Um, uh, Duke isn't the only football school in the city of Durham, North Carolina. Them North Carolina Central Eagles showed out and showed how dominant the MEAC is over the SWAC yet another year, unfortunately. Coach, what were your thoughts?
It was an excellent game. There's no excuse in terms of. I understand that there were a lot of distractions, and some Jackson State players is going to be heading to Colorado with Coach Prime. There's no distractions as far as I'm concerned. No excuses. Saying essentially that we were distracted. A lot of outside things going on. To me, just North Carolina Central just flat out beat them, and they won the
Yes,
game.
it did.
It was an excellent game. It was a competitive game, back and forth. I think it came down to a few things. First, North Carolina Central, they dominated up front on both sides of the ball, both on the offensive line and the defensive line. That was one thing. Another thing, unlike a lot of Jackson State's opponents throughout the course of the year, they weren't intimidated by Jackson State, and they came out and they punched Jackson State them out. I mean, they jumped on them early, and they established the fact that, hey, we're not afraid of you. We're going to be here all game. It's we here, so we're not running. We're not scared. And more than anything, it was obvious that they stuck to their game plan.
And don't
So
don't give away the whole meal, Coach. I want to save that for later on the show. I want you to cook later, okay? Um,
okay, okay.
uh, and that sets up one of my questions, and I'm gonna set it up real second. 1 second, give me one moment. Forgive me if you hear my dog barking in the background. Uh, I'm sorry, I'm trying to mute so you won't hear my dog in the background. But One of my questions is, what helped North Carolina Central win the most, Coach? We was talking about it uh, during, yesterday. Texting each other back and forth, explaining what we saw in the game, and you, with your coach's mind, kind of break down what you saw as a coach. What was what helped North Carolina Central uh, win the game and get the victory yesterday?
I noticed was I think Glendon Bowman McDaniel having the success he had against Jackson State in the SWAC championship game. I think that really helped North Carolina Central yesterday because having a dual threat quarterback, like not just hey he's a dual threat guy, but really he's a glorified running back playing quarterback. He a pocket passer and he a sitting duck. But having a true dual threat quarterback, it really it helps against that Jackson State defense because for the most part, they have a lot of athletes. They run defensively. It's like they run like a hybrid 4-2-5-3-3 stack. But I noticed they really struggled to stop the run yesterday. So anytime they just line up and they ran the ball with the kid Mookie Collier, man, hey, Jackson State could not stop that kid. I think that was one of the biggest differences, just them dominating Jackson State defensive line. And that's one thing about it. I didn't see anyone dominate Jackson State in terms of Jackson State defensive line the whole year. Nobody really dominated them like that. And anytime Jackson State has been in trouble during the course of the year, what Jackson State would do was just load up the box and just blitz. Whether it's run blitz, pass blitz, they just send in everybody. It didn't work yesterday. North Carolina Central was able to get a hat on a hat. In terms of the other side of the ball, in terms of Jackson State offensively, North Carolina Central, again, their defensive line was able to get penetration, and Jackson State had no running game. And I don't know if you remember when we met at the meet and greet, a group of us were talking. In fact, that was part of the reason why I didn't get to meet as many people as I wanted to meet and greet because the conversation got so good. Like we just stood there and we just talked to the end of it. But anyway, I was saying that when Jackson State came to AWS Stadium last year and feel like the line was not impressive and they really weren't able to run the ball like that. I mean, I wasn't impressed by the offensive line last year.
At all.
But this year they got a couple linemen. But overall, I mean, they got a couple linemen, but overall, the offensive line during the course of the season they played much better. But again, they got exposed again yesterday in the Celebration Bowl because they just could not run the ball at all, and they relied heavily on their passing game. So Shador had to make plays. He got the ball to Coleman, so he was able to spread the ball around. But the one difference, uh, that the one thing that really hurt them when they got in short yardage situations, they just couldn't get the ball to Wilkinson and get a first down. Whereas North Carolina Central, they was able to get a ball to Mookie Collier in short yardage situations, and they were able to win. So I'm not gonna jump too far ahead because I'm gonna tell you what would have happened later on. Had the that third string tight end had he made that catch, what would have happened based on the way the game was going. But for the most part, those are the factors that really helped North Carolina Central just pull out their victory in overtime yesterday in the Celebration Bowl.
Yes, and I definitely agree. And yeah, save that. Save all that for. That's one of the questions I'm gonna ask later on about that tight end. They will crucify him in social media, unfortunately. Um, feel sorry for that young man, and but going back to what you were saying, absolutely. The offensive line and defensive line of Jackson State did not come to play. O line did okay, but it wasn't good enough to um, block that D line of North Carolina Central. They was getting pressure. They were clogging up the running game for all the Jackson State running backs. None of I did. I don't think Jackson State even could even run 5 yards the whole game on the running game
They, I
as
think they
far as
got
running back.
at one point like
You freezing up, coach.
at one point in like the interregulation of maybe the overtime. They only
Freezing up again, coach.
bro.
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay. No, I was saying at one point, like towards the interregulation, or maybe in overtime, they only had 7 yards rushing for the entire game, Jackson State.
Yeah, they did. I mean, they did a great job, and you would think how they lost to Campbell. Um, Jackson State would have did a better job uh, running the ball, because even though that game against Campbell was close, they did show a little bit of dominance. But if you look back at that Campbell game, they had a problem. Always had a problem, even with Bubba McDaniel. Even with the Campbell quarterback, they had issues with running quarterbacks. So
Yeah.
as far as Darius Richard, I bet you he was looking at, in the film room, he was looking at film like, oh, I got these boys. No problem. I got you, coach. Because they do not know how to
Yeah.
defend the quarterback option run at all.
Well, I
Even
mean, I
with all the
think this.
talent they have.
I don't
Go
mean,
ahead.
I don't mean, I don't mean to cut you off. I think these have problems with like true dual threat quarterbacks. It ain't just the zone read or the read option, just any option. Period. I think if you're a passing threat and you're a running threat, that's a problem. I think they have this success against one-dimensional quarterbacks. You know.
Yes, sir. I definitely agree. Yeah, let me correct that. It's not that they don't know how to defend the option run or the quarterback zone. Uh, it just with that different that style of quarterback. Davis Richard can throw the ball well, decent enough to be a threat, and he can run. I mean, that was his game. I mean, you thought he was the running back out there. And then don't get me started on the running back, North Carolina Central running back. Did you see that stiff
Yeah,
arm?
Memphis Dahlia. Oh my goodness, bro, man, with that straight on me, it gives my concussion.
And a lot of North Carolina Central fans was like, everybody was like, "Ooh," everybody was in shock that he did something like that to a Jackson State defender. And North Carolina Central fans like, heck, he's been doing that all year.
Oh, I could imagine.
But it was a overall what I do want to give a shout out on offense as far as Jackson State. Shedeur Sanders. Sanders showed basically very calm in the pocket. Of course, he didn't. I'm sure he would like more time to throw it than he did. But a lot of times in the games he was able to get some time and get the ball to his desired receivers, which would able allow them to score, but they couldn't do that consistently, and the running game
bro,
failed them.
bro, he is a cool customer under pressure. He played exceptionally well. And in addition to that, I keep referencing uh, last year's game between Southern and Jackson State at AEW Mumford Stadium. But he impressed me in that final drive, and he played that way the entire game yesterday.
Yeah, he definitely did, and I think if you give him, if they recruit well,
Love you, baby.
if they recruit well at Colorado as far as offensive line wise, and I know we dealing with a different monster over there in Pac-12. We're talking about trying to draft the elite lineman to guard maybe potential NFL players on those Pac-12 defensive lines. Um, you need some athletes on that all line. So if you can give Shador that, I think he'll do fairly. I mean, he'll do great in the Pac-12 passing, no matter who the opponent is.
I think he will. I think the thing that we really didn't touch on is now that people started into the transfer portal. I was shocked that since they made the announcement that he's going to be going to Colorado, like a lot of 3, 4, 5-star recruits are interested in going to Colorado now.
Absolutely, they already bagged them at former Oregon transfer. So a rival Pac-12 play. I think he's a running back or a wide receiver. I think he played both. Is going to Colorado. Go ahead.
In fact, I think a 5-star running back from Alabama, he's in the portal, and he expressed interest about going to Colorado.
Yeah, yes, he did. I saw that. I I saw that. But just going back to the game, um, even though O line, D line did not play for Jackson, did not come to play Jackson State, we're not taking anything away from North Carolina Central game plan. You got to give it up to those coaches. The player, ultimately the players. I mean, man, North Carolina Central. It's you know what I was thinking, Coach. I'm not gonna lie. When I was watching the game, I bet you the coaches who were still on the staff in 2016 when they lost to Devontae Kincaid and Grambling, they were thinking, we're going to get us one. We're not going to relive that again.
Yeah, and when I came when we first started, that's the first thing I said was the fact that to me, Jackson State lost. There's no excuses. North Carolina Central won that game. They just outplayed them. So I know some people gonna try to make the excuse, well, there was a lot of outside distractions and Coach Prime and some of the players going to Colorado. But even with that being said, I don't think there's no excuses to be made. It was a winnable game, and North Carolina Central just outplayed them.
Definitely. At that point, I'll be honest with you, Coach. One thing I will say, there was a couple questionable calls on the offensive coordinator for Jackson State, meaning, okay, you see they're shutting down the run, but they can't. I understand they're getting penetration, and the O line is not holding up well enough to get the deep passes down the field like they was able to surprise North Carolina Central with early in the first half. But those quick, probably try a couple of. I would have tried a couple of quick slants, couple of short routes. You know what I mean? Just to get the ball out quicker. Maybe a screen, a couple of screens. Because can I be honest with you? Secondary wise, the North Carolina Central played a good game. Secondary wise, D line was amazing, but secondary probably was their weakest on that defense. Was their weakness.
Well, bro.
So how they stopped
Well,
passing them?
bro.
Like,
Really?
go ahead.
Well, I mean, they threw a lot of short passes, like all throughout the course of the game. I think that's why they were able to throw that long pass down the field to Coleman. I mean, he didn't just constantly throw the ball deep, 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 deep. I mean, he threw a lot of curls. He didn't throw a whole lot of like slants, but he threw a lot of like short passes when they were playing zone. I think there were instances where he was trying to throw the ball down the field and he held it. Like the couple times he got sacked, they were just coverage sacks more than anything. And they knew not to like rush him too quick. They kept him in the pocket, they stayed in their lanes, and they just gradually collapsed on him and sacked him. So, in fact, even one of the last sack where he was in a red zone on the plus side of the field, he was in the red zone and he got sacked. If anything, that helped Jackson State because when like North Carolina Central defense was back to the goal line, they were able to defend Jackson State better. So once they were backed up, he was able to throw the pass to Travis Hunter that was sending the game into overtime. So, I think they mixed it up. They threw some short passes, they threw some long passes. Uh, it was unfortunate they didn't have any success in the run game. But I think from a passing standpoint, since that was what they were limited to, I think from a play calling standpoint, he did a good job mixing up his plays. Now, don't get me wrong. I think in other instances, they just took what the defense were giving them. When he kept throwing those curls.
Okay.
I mean, they were playing zone. When they were playing zone, hey, receiver just sit in the zone. I'm just gonna hurry him throw it because there were instances where Shador he made a conscious effort to get rid of the ball quickly. So, I mean, it was a little bit of both.
And excuse me, coach. This is me being an armchair coach yesterday. But there was there were some times watching the game, like, man, I would have passed it there instead of, because the D line was stonewalling Savion Wilkerson, man. They was stonewalling that
And I
dude.
and I understand what you're saying, but from a coach's standpoint, sometimes you just don't want to completely abandon the run
Of
because in
course
those
not.
instances, you make your quarterback a sitting duck, and they did a good job mixing it up. I mean they tried to run even when they wasn't having success running the ball, but for the most part, when they got back into it, they they threw the ball. I think the only time I really did question them running was they were only down by one score. I think they were down by like maybe a couple points, and but prior to that, it was back and forth, and it was like I think Shador threw a pass on first down, and it was like 2nd and 1. They ran the ball, then they ran the exact same play on 3rd and 1, and they ended up punting the ball. I'm like, you don't want to punt the ball back to North Carolina Central because the defense isn't stopping them.
At
So,
all.
so that's when I question them running the ball. I mean, it's 3rd and 1. I think in that particular instance, I would have did something differently to pass the ball and keep the chains moving. I'm not saying completely abandon the run, but in that particular situation, it's too obvious. And North Carolina Central was ready for the run. They got a lot of penetration. They got the stop, and Jackson State had to punt the ball back to North Carolina Central.
Yeah. That uh, I mean, you just I would say it again. North Carolina Central D line was. They looked like they was a Division 1 D line, how they was, I mean, excuse me, Power 5 defensive line, how they was stopping that running game.
Oh
And
yeah, I
can I
mean
be
without
honest
question.
with you? I believe, as far as D line wise, Jackson State played better defensive lines, in my opinion.
Uh I mean
In
I
my
think
opinion.
so. I think so. I think you know I would say, but people might argue, with Jason Dumas and Jordan Lewis and Taj Brown that Southern defensive line is formidable. But guess what? Southern defensive line didn't have the kind of success North Carolina Central had yesterday. So
Not at all.
I mean, they might have played against better defensive lines, but North Carolina Central, they came to play. They got a lot of penetration. They were aggressive. Uh, they knew when to sit back. They knew when to blitz. They knew when to run blitz. And more than anything, it was kind of ironic to me. They just kind of out Jackson State, because anytime during the course of the year Jackson State needed a big stop, they would just load up the pocket and send everybody. And there was instances yesterday where it cost them, because that touchdown to Travis Hunter, maybe they could have just sat back and played zone in that particular instance. But more than anything, I kind of feel like they kind of beat Jackson State at their own game in that
They
regard.
did. They really did. And you can't forget those two names. I mean, two people. I'm blanking on my brother's name, the running back, but Davion Richard,
Oh, Mookie Collier?
Mookie Kyer.
Yeah.
Mookie Kyer was a beast, man. That's and no disrespect to the Howard from Alcorn and what's the running back from Grambling, the young boy. I think he
Floyd
gonna
Chalk
do
the Force.
Floyd Chalk
Floyd
the
Chalk the
Force.
Force. Yes.
Them boys, them young men are bad boys. But let me tell you something. That was the best running back they seen all year, brother.
Oh yeah, I would agree.
Are you? Is there any debate on that?
I would agree. I mean,
When he hit
and,
it
and like
outside,
I said,
I mean, that was 15, 10 yards right there. Go ahead, coach.
I mean the thing about him, I mean he was powerful and he was quick at the same time. I mean, during the course of the year, Jackson State gave up, a couple big runs, because I remember Gerard Sims, he had like a 53-yard run against Jackson State, but the problem with that was I think he got hurt, because I didn't see him for Southern the rest of the year. So I think, excuse me, I think them seeing a back that played that well, I think I don't think they were ready for that, to be truthful.
No, and especially not Davius Richard.
Well, I mean, I think after a certain point in the game, they were able to corral him in terms of his quarterback draws and his design quarterback runs. After a certain point, when they were running the quarterback power, whatever the case may be, at certain points Jackson State was prepared for that. At
Yeah,
no point did they stop Mookie Collier. I mean, I think the thing that helped Richards was the fact that first play of the game, he threw a dime way down the field, and he had success from the pocket. Excuse me, and he had success running the ball. But Collier, he was the difference in terms of
yes,
giving their offense balance.
yeah, he really was. I mean, they did a great job, and you got to give it up to that offensive coordinator and the head coach. Of course, the D, but on offensive side of the ball, that O line. Do you remember their starting was it I want to say left guard went down for the rest of the game, and they brought in a freshman guard, and he did his thing, bro.
Yeah, bro. I mean, they really got up for that game, you know, and I think a lot of people could attest. I mean, certain instances, when you play certain teams, it's a bad matchup, and then you have other instances where, like, it's a big game, You just get up for the game, and man, hey, North Carolina Central was on cloud nine yesterday. They really was up for that game, and they had it made up in their mind they were going to beat Jackson State.
Yes, they did. They really did. They really did, man. And like I said, like we just said, they had in their mind what happened to 2016, because in 2016, facing that Grambling State with Devontae Kincaid and Martez Carter and Chad Williams, they was in that game to the point they could have won, but Jackson State, that offense was a little bit too much for them. So that, I mean, I think they were still heartbroken, or that was still in the back of their minds, and they
Well,
was
I
gonna
think
let this slide, man. They was gonna let it
I,
slide.
I, I think they definitely were locked in, but I think that Grambling team that they played that year and Jackson State, I think Jackson State might have been better defensively, but I think that Grambling team's much better offensively because you got a quarterback in Kincaid, you got a running back in Carter, you got a wide receiver in Williams. I mean, they had triplets, so that made
Yes,
all the difference. That made
and you
all the
remember
difference.
that you remember that wide receiver uh on the other side, number two, with he had dreads. I want to say his name was
I can't.
Verlin Hunter or something like that. Tucker. He was another one that could go and get it. He was a
Yeah,
very good
I,
deep
I
threat.
remember. I remember him. I can't remember his name. I mean, I know, you know, with Kincaid, they gave Southern the blues that year, and Southern had an excellent offense, but Southern struggled defensively that year.
Yes, they did. Yes, they did. Man, that Grambling squad gave everybody the blues, 16 and 17. Grambling State Tigers, but going back to the game we saw, and what up, Jay Good? Uh, I want to move on to another topic that everybody's talking about, and we're talking about excuses. Was it smart giving the ball to Hayden Hagler in a clutch situation like that?
Honestly,
What you think, Coach?
from a coach's standpoint, I don't I don't see the issue in it. The reason being because I know as a Saints fan, many instances, just say for example, if the Saints knew you won't go to somebody like maybe Jeremy Shockey, Jimmy Graham, or one of those guys, they would, you know, they would put in a fullback, backup tight end, and they would use like Jimmy Graham or whoever the top tight end or whoever the top threat is, and they would throw it to the backup because I mean that's how Hill, not Taysom Hill, but the tight end Hill. That's really how he got his start with the Saints because teams would zoom in on Jimmy Graham and they would throw him the ball because they would use Jimmy Graham as a decoy. I mean that play they ran, that's almost straight out of Sean Payton's playbook. It was a different formation, but for the most part, that would be the same way uh, Sean Payton would use his tight ends. He would use Jimmy Graham as the decoy, and he would use one of those backup even third, fourth string tight ends, and he would use that guy as the decoy because you're not expecting him to get the ball. So in that particular instance, you know, it's not so much the fact that it was a it was a bad play call. I mean, it served its purpose because guess what? It was an excellent play. He just got to make the catch, and I feel sorry for him because you know,
Oh,
you
they
know, of
roasting
course,
him on social media,
yeah, shout
but
out to Jay Good. I don't know if Jay Good played. Me and you talked about this yesterday. Southern had this quarterback named Marcus Jacoby. He was a white guy, and you know, at one point, people made it seem like, well, the reason why Southern fans don't like him was because he's a white quarterback. That's bull crap. Because at that same time, LSU had this quarterback named Craig Nall. and he transferred to Northwestern, and he was the beast. Now, if he'd have transferred from LSU to Southern, that'd have been another thing. But anyway, just like yesterday, it wasn't the Celebration Bowl at the time; it was the Heritage Bowl, and they played Howard in the Heritage Bowl, and he called Southern the game. He threw a stupid interception, and just like the 2 years he started, Southern won SWAC, but Southern just had a lot of good pieces around it. They had an excellent defense. They had a excellent offensive line. Their running back was overrated. His name was Steve Orff, and he ended up being Southern all-time leading rusher. Well, anyway, to make a long story short, it wasn't the exact same situation, but over time, like he started to get death threats and things of that nature. He would get racist comments sent to him, whatever the case may be. Now you got to realize they didn't have social media at that time, so I don't know if they was calling his dorm room or whatever the case may be. But make a long story short, he ended up dropping out of Southern. There was a long article about it. Back like in the mid to late '90s, the internet wasn't as prevalent as it is now. And in those days, if you would like get an article offline, it would take a long time to print. So my dad printed at my uncle's house, and bro, I kid you not, he just thought he paid for the article, he didn't get the article. Bro, it took like 8 hours for that article to download, and it was so many pages, and he read through it. My dad was like, it's not the fact that he was white that Southern fans didn't like him, it's the fact that he's a trash quarterback, for one. And second of all, he was like, doing integration. Like, my dad, he played at the high school I went to. He played during that time. And he was like,
Yeah.
he just went through all the same things we went through. So it wasn't that he was insensitive or heartless. He was like, basically, he just got a taste of what we got. So, he really didn't feel sorry for him. So, but in this young man's particular instance, if he made the catch, he wouldn't be going through that. But, I kind of feel sorry for him in the situation that he in. I bet you if he could go back and do it, he wish he would have made that catch.
Yeah, absolutely. And Jay Good also said he was wide open, right call for execution. And he said, answer your question about the quarterback. He was there when I was there. Sam was right. Sam was behind him, and Marcus went to Catholic,
He
same
did.
school as Warwick Dunn.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know what he did at Catholic High, but he ended up going to La Tech, and he ended up transferring from La Tech to Southern. And man, everybody wanted Sam George to start. I mean, I knew guys that played with Marcus Jacoby. Marcus Jacoby was terrible. In fact, at one point, I told you this yesterday when we were talking on the phone. At one point when Southern went to Thibodeau to play against Nickel State, like
Mm-hmm.
Southern wide receivers were intentionally dropping passes because they didn't want Marcus Jacoby to start. They wanted Sam George to be the starter because, like I told you, at that time, Sam George and Lionel Hayes were like the backup quarterbacks. Sam George eventually ended up becoming Southern starter, and Lionel Hayes ended up transferring and becoming Grambling starter. And basically, like, they didn't want him to be the starter. And the kind of the low point of it was, I think it was like the '97 Bayou Classic, if I'm not mistaken. Jacoby was the starting quarterback for Southern, and he was terrible. And this quarterback named Cornblaw, he was George Steinbrenner's nephew. He was the starting quarterback for Grambling. Bro, that might have been like the worst Bayou Classic I've been in my life. I mean, they were both terrible. And we thought Jacoby was bad, and Matt Cornblaw was even worse. And it was so bad, like, Grambling turned the ball over at one point, and Southern defensive player picked it up, and he was running, and one of Grambling offensive players caught him. He tried to fumble the ball forward to one of his teammates. He picked it up and ran it for a touchdown, but they called it back from the point he fumbled it forward because it was a illegal forward fumble. And I'm like, wow, it was hard to watch that game. And Doug Williams got in the news, and he just trashed both quarterbacks. And of course, by the next year, Sam George was Southern starting quarterback, and Lionel Hayes was Grambling starting quarterback. So the ironic thing is, both of them that ended up being Marcus Jacoby backup, both of them ended up starting, one for Southern and one for Grambling. So It's crazy how that worked out.
It did. And Jay Good said Coach Orlando really wanted to ride out with Marcus over Sam. At that time, the offense was based off of Florida State's offensive scheme.
Yeah, yeah, they did run the Florida State offense. That's why uh, I know Jay Good said he didn't know him, but there was this guy that went to Donaldsonville High School. His name was Lionel Nicholas. He was Southern starting punter at one time, but he was like a beast running back. And he's from Donaldsonville, and Melvin Williams is from me and him from the same area, we both from Belrose. But like all the Southern running back kind of fit like the NFL prototype at the time, like the Emmitt Smith, the Thurman Thomas, the Barry Sanders. So like Lindsey Scott Sr., Melvin Williams, Steve Warford, they all kind of fit that prototype. But in Lionel Nicholas' mind, he felt like he was better than him. But I'm like, bro, you got to realize it's not the fact that he was better, you were better. Y'all just different. You a power back and he like a slasher. And I'm like, he fit that prototype for that Florida State offense because not only that, but Southern used to throw the ball to the running backs out the backfield a lot. Like those little swing passes, man, Marcus Landon might throw like 10 of them a game. So that was a huge part of the offense. So I think that, it kind of factored into it. And then of course, after that, Southern had another running back to transfer. His name was Jermaine Sharp. He was the star running back at LSU. I think he had to get in trouble. Like me and Jay Good talked about it at the meet and greet. I think Pete Richardson was taking like a lot of cast offs from Power Fives. I think that's part of the reason why he had so much success. And that's why he had so much talent because, a lot of those guys were coming from big programs to come to Southern. So, I mean, he ended up getting a lot of talent to come to Southern in those mid to late 90s.
Yeah, and Jay Good said that was Coach Robson's last game, and he said Mel was the truth.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Melvin Williams the third. I mean, Melvin Williams Jr. Melvin Williams Jr. was the truth. He was. And I mean, he ended up becoming Southern all-time leading rusher. And then the guy that was running back at the time with Marcus Jacoby, Steve Warford, I thought he was overrated, but he ended up breaking his record and becoming an all-time leading rusher. But the difference the reason why I used to like Melvin Williams so much better than Steve Warford, I know Melvin Williams was like, 5'10", 5'11", like maybe 190. Steve Warford was like 5'8", like 180. But Steve Warford used to run out of bounds all the time. Anytime he was getting ready to hit, he'd trip down, fall down, slip down, went out of bounds. Whereas Melvin Williams, he wasn't running over people, but he was breaking arm tackles, if you know what I mean. So that
Yeah,
was a big difference between the two of them to me. Whereas Lionel Nicholas, he only played like at the end of games until Jermaine Sharp transferred from LSU, and then he just strictly was a punter, and then eventually he wasn't academically eligible anymore. In fact, both him and Melvin Williams was no longer academically ineligible. I mean, they was academically ineligible, and then Melvin Williams ended up coming back his senior year. He sat out his junior year. That's what allowed Steve Warford to become the starter. And Jermaine Sharp, I don't know what he did. Now I say he had to get in trouble at LSU because the first thing he did at Southern, P. Richardson kicked him off the team.
dang, dang. Well, that's how it is sometimes. But going
Yeah.
back to our original topic, you and Jay Good pretty much said it, took the words out of my mouth. Uh, because he was that wide open, it wasn't a bad play or stupid play that some people would say. Some people will go as far as using because he hasn't. Now I do see what people are saying, where they're coming from, as far as Hagler wasn't even initiated in any type of the uh, scheme yesterday at all. He didn't even get the ball thrown to him once. So why would you pick a situation like that to decide to throw to him? But I guess, like you said, they wanted to surprise him or use that play to because they're worried about the main threats, and then Hagler can sneak in and get the touchdown. But the young man just dropped it.
Yeah, and like I said, I understand you saying the logic they're using is he's not handling the ball, he's not touching the ball, so why put him in a tough spot? But That's the reasoning behind it. Like you say, you catching them off surprise, catching them by surprise because they're expecting Stevenson to get the ball in that particular instance.
Yeah, DJ
So if
Stevens. Yeah.
they know you're gonna go to him. More than likely, they might have doubled him. I don't know, but that's the reason why he was so wide open. And like I said, Sean Payton, like he used to run that all the time. That's the reason why, like Hill, not Taysom Hill, but the tight end that played for the Saints Hill. That's really how he really cut his teeth by, they'll throw him in, they'll throw three tight end set in like a similar formation, not the same, but similar. And hey, they'll use Jimmy Graham as a decoy. And they'll double Graham, and he'll be wide open. But the only difference is he was catching those passes, and Hagley he dropped his. So, and the bad thing about the entire situation, I don't want to jump too far ahead. One of my coaching friends texted me, and he was like, had Jackson State, you know, scored that touchdown, and they went into another overtime. He said, "What you think would have happened?" I said, "I'm gonna be truthful. I think North Carolina Central still wins. The reason being is because in short yardage situations, North Carolina Central was able to give the ball to Mookie Collier, and he gonna get you 1, 2, 3 yards
They
for
couldn't
the
stop
touchdown.
him. Period.
They couldn't stop him. Whereas on the flip side, once he dropped that pass, I figure it's gonna be tough for Jackson State to score because they they had trouble scoring in short yardage situations yesterday. So once he dropped that pass, I'm like, wow, like they might be in trouble because you know when you're on a goal line situation, basically the defense, the field is condensed. So if you play zone, it's easy to cover. So with the field being condensed the way it was difficult. In fact, people don't realize really by at the end of regulation when Shador got sacked, if anything, it probably helped Jackson State offense out because now you backed up. Now you have room to operate and you could throw that pass to Travis Hunter. But had he not got sacked, they might not have scored that touchdown sending in the overtime.
At all. At all. And another thing I thought was kind of I wouldn't have done me personally. Um, During overtime, they chose to defend and gave the ball to North Carolina Central first. Me personally, knowing that we haven't been able to stop them at all, me I would have just chosen to get the ball first and try to take all I could get. Me personally, I thought
I
that
I,
was
dis-
kind of
I disagree, bro, because my
okay.
my philosophy in those situations is I won't go on defense first because I won't know what I have to do. So if you get the ball first and you kick a field goal, now I'm knowing a field goal tied and send it to the second overtime. But if I score a touchdown, I win the game. Now, if if you get the ball first, because you got to realize every other overtime it flip flops. So if you get the ball first in the first overtime, the next overtime I get the ball first. So in that particular instance, if they score, it's gonna keep going and they're gonna keep the ball. So
Yeah, and going back to that tight end play, Jay Good um is going into it. He said Peyton learned that tight end love fits from Parcells. The 12 set, Big 12, one back, two tight ends. Cowboys lived off that through the entirety of Witten's career. Witten and Gavin Escobar, etc. Rest in peace to Gavin Escobar. Yeah, rest in peace to Gavin Escobar. He passed away a couple of weeks ago. That was
yeah,
crazy. He was still
yeah,
young. He was only in his 30s, man. So, um,
yeah, that's unfortunate. But he right though, because even when he was in New York, Parcells used to like that tight end set, two tight end set, and he lived. I mean, he rode Mark Bavaro like crazy in those '80s. I mean, a running game, Mark Bavaro, good defense. That was really Parcells' motto in those 80s. People don't realize that's really what got uh excuse me, that's really what got Belichick on the fact that he was
Hmm.
Bill Parcells defensive coordinator for the Giants at the time. People don't even know that. Well, let me phrase that. Younger people don't know that. They just see Bill Belichick and just, oh, that's Bill Belichick. But no, he started out as Bill Parcells defensive coordinator for the Giants in the late 80s, you know.
Well, I learned something myself. Okay. All right. All right. Uh, Going on to the next topic we're going to talk about, and I want your complete honesty. And Jay Good, you can put your what you think in the chat as well. Will Jackson State make it back to a Celebration Bowl under TC Taylor?
Uh, I think at some point they will. If you asking me, are they gonna make it next season? I say no, because just like we talked about the previous show, I mean, I think he probably gonna go out and recruit, and he gonna probably gonna recruit, do a decent job in recruiting. But I think with Coach Prime going to Colorado, I think the two teams that's really gonna benefit from it, and that's gonna send in the SWAC. I think Southern is gonna probably be more of a threat. I mean, don't get me wrong, they got holes to fill because Jordan Lewis is a senior, Taj Brown and and Dumas, they all seniors. Corian Harris is senior. You had a few seniors on the offensive line, so they got to fill those holes.
Mm-hmm.
Glenn Bob McDaniel was a senior, so it's gonna come down to is he gonna stick with Bashawn McCray? Is he gonna go with Harold Blood? Is he gonna go with Noah Barton? So you got that. I mean, so once Southern fill those holes, but even with that being said, fam, to me, even more so than Southern, they were by far the second best team in the SWAC this year, and they weren't at full strength when they played against Jackson State. So I think those two teams probably SWAC probably one of those two teams probably. I think those two teams probably end up playing in the SWAC championship. I mean, it's too early to tell, but if I had to put my money on it, I'll probably say those would be the two teams playing the SWAC championship, and I think one of those two will win the SWAC. But I think at some point TC Taylor will make it back to another Celebration Bowl because all of those players can't enter the transfer portal and go with him to Colorado. And even with that being said, the players that do stay behind, I think they kind of got exposed yesterday as far as I'm concerned. I mean, teams gonna know how to attack them next year. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's not gonna be the entirely exact same team, but I've been saying the whole year, the way you deal with Jackson State defense, them loading up the box all the time, just punch them in the mouth, and that's what North Carolina Central did.
Yeah, I'm going to disagree. I think they can make it to the Celebration Bowl next year. Um, I th- did you see the quarterback that they recruited to replace Shedeur Sanders?
What is? No, I didn't see him.
He comes from a last chance U school. Uh, he was the top quarterback in the nation as far as Philip Short. Thank you, Jay Good. His name is Philip Short. I think that's a good start, and if they can build around him, protect him, he's a good athlete. Of course, shore up that defense, recruit on that defense side of the ball. I think they can make it back.
Well, I mean, I understand what you're saying, but
I know
they
that's
got a lot of
wishful thinking, but and also Jay Good. Give me 1 second, Coach. Jay Good said I think they'll be in the mix. I don't know about immediately next year, which is fair. Kevin Coleman is coming back. Yeah, depends on what their portal is looking like and signing day. Fam should be in the mix. Yeah, Fam, you definitely will be in the mix. But anybody, and thank you for Jay Good for letting inform us that. And anybody who don't know Jay Good on Instagram and social media, he posted a committed, like picture. Um, Meaning that basically he's staying with Jackson State. So the
I don't because
four star Jackson 4-star commit is staying with Jackson State. So shouts out to Kevin Coleman. Go ahead.
yeah, because the crazy thing about it is like a week ago around this time, we heard that him and Shador and Shiloh, of course, Shiloh and Shador gonna go. That's their dad, and supposedly like one of the linemen and Travis Hunter, supposedly all of those were going to Colorado with Coach Prime.
Yeah, yeah, but I like how Jay Good put it. I think they're gonna be in the mix, but I think they're gonna have a little bit be more talented than what everybody thinks. Um, because everybody gonna think that because most of their players probably gonna not gonna be there, that they're not gonna be able to compete, and I think they're gonna prove everybody wrong. But of course, that's my opinion, and of course we will see, right?
Yeah, and I mean, essentially, he and I say the same thing. We just kind of phrase it differently. Uh, I don't think they're gonna. I think they're definitely gonna be in the mix, but I think maybe in a couple years, maybe a few years, I think they'll be ready to make another run at the Celebration Bowl. But I think for now, I think one of those other teams in the SWAC going to send in. I'm just basing it on my eyeball test this year. I said Southern and Jackson State, but who knows? It could be Grambling, it could be, which I doubt, but it could be Alcorn, it could be Prairie View. So especially the SWAC West. The SWAC West was real inconsistent week to week. So it could be anybody coming out the SWAC West.
Yeah, definitely. And if any team that I'm picking to overthrow Jackson State as defending overthrow Jackson State to be the new SWAC champions is FAMU, or to compete for the
Yeah,
yeah, like you said. Yes, sir. Go ahead.
yeah, and I mean, I know they have a lot of seniors, but even with that being said, they just had a deep team from what I saw.
Yeah, they do. They do. And I'm okay. This next question, the Jay Good. I don't want you to be honest. I don't want you to be biased because you used to play with the SWAC. And I want you to be honest too, Coach. Does the MEAC own the SWAC? Your thoughts, Coach?
Heck no. You
Okay,
got
go ahead.
heck no, bro. You got to realize this is a back and forth thing. It's back and forth, and I'm almost certain it's the same time frame Jay Good was at Southern. At one point, like Coach Richardson, he didn't want to play in the Heritage Bowl no more. He said the reason being is because if for people that don't realize, like the way the SWAC has always been, you know, until like the late '90s, that's when you had a SWAC championship game. But prior to that, if Southern or Grambling won the SWAC championship, like other teams like Alcorn and other teams, they could go to the 1AA playoffs at the time. But Southern and Grambling couldn't go to 1AA playoffs because the 1AA playoffs and the Bayou Classic start on the same weekend. So Southern and Grambling couldn't go to 1AA playoffs. So some of those years Southern won the SWAC, Grambling won the SWAC. What would happen is instead of the MEAC sending one team to the 1AA playoffs, they would send two. And he was like, bro, like, I'm tired of beating up on like the third best team in the MEAC every year. And then it got to a point where, in many instances, like I was telling you that Marcus Jacoby team went, like that Southern team wasn't motivated to play Howard that year. And he said, it's not fair. You got the best team in the SWAC
Mm-hmm.
playing against the third best team in the MEAC. Like it wasn't fair. And then the thing about it, when Southern would play like other MEAC teams during the course of the year, like I mean, at one point, man, Southern just was, for the exception of FAMU, like Southern was feasting on MEAC teams. I remember North Carolina A&T beat them one year. One year we went to the Heritage Bowl. My mom, my dad, my sister. Southern beat South Carolina State in a Heritage Bowl. What's the Celebration Bowl now? But it's the same thing. So I mean, it's kind of been back and forth. I mean, I know the MEAC has had a little run, but in all actuality, North Carolina Central outplayed Jackson State yesterday. But last year, Jackson State should have won it. So does the MEAC on the swag? Nah. I mean, if they played during the regular season, I mean that'll be a better indication because I don't know if you noticed at one point they would play in the Heritage Bowl, the Celebration Bowl at the end of the year, but at the beginning of the year there was something called the Swag MEAC Challenge, and it would always be like a Jackson State against Tennessee State, uh, maybe like a Alcorn State against a Howard or a Hampton. It'd always be like a SWAC MEAC challenge at the beginning of the year and a celebration bowl at the end of the year. So if they got back to playing that, I think it'll give you a better indication. But that one
Right.
game, I don't think you really get a true indication of it. I think it's gonna always be back and forth. We can say the same thing about the NBA. Hey, does the Eastern Conference dominate the Western Conference, or vice versa? Does the AFC dominate the NFC or whatever? So that's gonna always be a back and forth type of thing.
Yeah, okay. Okay. Jay Good said there's a lot of factors for JSU. Dennis Thurman is a big loss for them. Who do they replace his SWAC dominance with? Also, Shador is a luxury and an anomaly. And Jay Good also said, so he was answering my last question about um, replacing talent like Shador Sanders and the coaches, and he responded to the question that we on now. I can't say MEAC owns SWAC based off Celebration Bowl. To me, MEAC is top heavy. It's 6 teams, and the majority of them are mediocre. Same thing they claim about the SWAC. Okay.
Yeah. In fact, I don't know if you remember this, like when our early shows, like that's been one of the knocks on both the SWAC and the MEAC that they both top heavy.
Yeah,
Like, cause I remember one year, all
you
right, just
did
say
say
for
that,
example,
Coach.
yeah, cause I remember, just say for example, when they played the first SWAC championship, bro, like once you got past like Southern, Jackson State, Grambling, and Alcorn, it was like those four and just everybody else. Like the rest of the SWAC didn't exist, and I think that was one of the reasons why people were so upset that Southern let Coach Odoms go to a MEAC school because they was like bro, like he beat he might not he wasn't able to get over the hump and beat Alcorn and win the SWAC championship, but he beat all the teams that they were supposed to beat in the SWAC, like Texas Southern. Since Coach Odoms left, Southern hasn't beat Texas Southern.
Wow. Okay.
So while he was there, they couldn't get over the hump, but they beat everybody they was supposed to beat.
Okay. There you go. So basically, you guys are saying that you because of the back and forth over the years, nobody really can't say who's dominant over the other. Because the MEAC
Yeah.
is surely flexing their muscles right now.
Oh yeah. I mean,
Based,
like I said, they having their run right now, but hey, it could change and the SWAC could go on like a 5 year run, and even then, I wouldn't say the SWAC on the MEAC. But like I said, it'll be interesting if you could reinstitute the SWAC MEAC challenge, and then it'll be truthful. I mean, maybe for the exception of Southern maybe playing LSU, like a couple of those meaningless games. I would rather see Southern play like a Howard or Hampton or one of
hmm
those MEAC teams because I don't know how Jay Good feel about it, but I know me, like as a fan, I used to like to see Southern play against Howard and Hampton. I remember Hampton came to AW one night and it was packed. And bro, I kid you not, like Southern band. I don't know if it was, no, I take that back. Yeah, it was Hampton. Southern band and Hampton band literally played all night. The referee had to warn both bands like 10 times to stop playing. Southern, I think, was like number. I think Southern Jackson State was 5 yesterday before the loss in the excuse me, the FCS poll. The highest Southern got to was like number 6, and I think at the time Southern was like number 8, and I think Hampton was number 1 and Southern was number 2, and Southern beat Hampton that night. But I mean, it was like electric atmosphere. So instead of Southern playing like Florida Memorial or Lincoln or Allen or one of these, like lower tier teams. I'd rather see them play a MEAC school. Now they still won't play the money game against LSU. I mean, like I said, that's more of a Mayweather McGregor type like money game. But other than that, Southern don't need to play these like lower tier schools. They need to play a MEAC type school, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And Jay Good said Coach Odom also beat Coach Prime. Good point.
Yeah, he did. He did.
Good point. Very good point.
And I mean, but at that time, that was Coach Prime. They playing in the spring. He really hadn't got a chance to really get any recruits in. And of course, and the crazy thing about it is he played Darius Skelton, he played John Lampler, and I think he played Glendon McDaniel. I think he played all three of them in that game, if I'm not mistaken. But I know Skelton and both Skelton and Lampler played in that game.
Yeah, I remember that game. Southern. That's the game where Coach Odoms got mad and was telling everybody get off the field after they won.
Yeah, I ain't gonna lie, that's one thing I can say about him. He was real, real big about discipline.
Yeah, mark my words. That Norfolk team, if they keep them, is going to be competing with the with A&T and well, not A&T because they're in the Big South now, but with the Centrals and the South Carolina States. Mark my words, Coach Odom gonna get them boys right.
Yeah, and I mean
Let me
that's closer to where he's from too. So I'm sure he's gonna recruit that area in North Carolina area well too.
Yeah, he will. He will. Trust me. Um, moving on to the next topic, and this you could say I'm putting the cart before the horse, but I'm gonna go ahead and ask you guys this question anyway. This question anyway, Coach. Will Coach Prime win over 5 games in the Pac-12 next year?
I think very much so. I think the reason being is just from what I'm seeing, a lot of like 4-star and 5-star recruits, and you got to realize there are instances where you could have 3-star that's going to outwork a 4 and 5-star. So I mean, the star rating isn't the end all be all. But even with that being said, I know there was this 5-star recruit from Alabama. He entered transfer portal and he already expressed interest in going to Colorado. And it's not just him; it's like a bunch of other recruits. So I know a couple guys might leave Jackson State to go with Coach Prime. It probably won't be a bunch, but maybe a few of them. Outside of maybe Shiloh and Shador. But I think he's electric. He's charismatic. He lights up a room. You know, so I think it's gonna be. I mean, it's gonna take him just like it took him a season to get Jackson State off the ground because that spring season, you know, we talked about Southern smacked him in that spring, and I think he gonna be down a little bit this year, but I think they're gonna win over 5 games. I think they might win 6. They might be bowl eligible, but I think the next year, I think it should pick up.
And the reason why I'm asking is because a lot of I'm just saying, a lot of the Deion Sanders haters are the people that still holding malice with him leaving. Saying that he's full of it. Saying that he's not gonna win a game in the Pac-12.
I disagree with that because, like I said, I mean, you got a lot of guys. I'm talking about big time recruits. Talking about that's in the transfer report as we speak. That's talking about going to Colorado. It's on the strength of him, and of course, you already know. Like I say, more than likely, Travis Hunter probably gonna go with him also. So.
Yeah. Jay Good said he could have ran it up on Jay. He talking about Coach Odom. Jay State, but he took the high road and spoke on Deion running it up in the spring on teams.
Yeah, I mean that. Like I said, Coach Odom. That's one thing I always liked about him. He was a class guy. I think the thing that really kind of just hindered him is the fact that he's really a transplant. He's really not from Baton Rouge, and he really didn't recruit Baton Rouge well. I mean, of course, you got guys that he recruited that was from Baton Rouge, but for the most part, he don't recruited a Louisiana as well as coaches in the past. But you know, the boosters and the alumni, like they just never bought into him, and already, some of them not buying into Coach Dooley as we speak because of the whole Leonard Bubba McDaniel, Bashawn McCray situation. But even with that being said, I think the fact uh, that Coach Richardson gave Coach Dooley his stamp of approval, I think that's kind of the only thing that really kind of helping Dooley as we speak. But I was a fan of Odoms. I felt at some point he was going to eventually break through that glass ceiling again and win another SWAC championship. But I think the fact that Southern fan base is so impatient, they want one SWAC every year, and the fact that he just couldn't get over that Alcorn State hurdle, and they lost their last SWAC championship, and even in the spring, they played well. They lost. They didn't have a SWAC championship game, but I think they it was one loss away from one more winning away from winning it, and they didn't want to give him the money. He ended up getting out the door. So hopefully they happy with Coach Dooley. Hopefully he could get them where they need to be. But I know he lost 2 years in a row in the SWAC championship game. But with the whole Bashawn McCray situation, I'm not gonna lie, I'm not really moved with him at this point.
Yeah, yeah. That don't get me started on Bashawn McCray. But Jay Good also made a good point. Oh, they start the Colorado starting the season off in the funk. He said basically they gonna lose to TSU first game next year. That's their
Yeah, I mean,
first game next year. TSU.
yeah, I mean, I could see them. I don't think they're gonna beat TCU, but I mean, aside from TCU, I'm almost certain that they're gonna have probably a handful, more than a handful of winnable games.
I
So
think
I
that
mean,
yeah, I agree.
so yeah, even if they do lose to TCU, I'm sure they're gonna bounce back. But the thing about it is, how many elite level recruits is he gonna be able to get into his program the first year? I know it's gonna take time to build him up, but what could he do that first year? I think that's the $1 million question. Well, in this instance, $5 million question.
Yeah. And if y'all and here's why I think they may do. This is where I think they may overachieve as far as people um, predicting. They gonna win no games or win just 5 games. They may overachieve that because a lot of people aren't people. Did we yet forget about how good Coach Prime recruited in Jackson State? So now he's going to a Power Five school where he has way more resources. You think he can't flip
Better
some of these
facility.
better facilities? You think he can't recruit some of these five school players? These 5-star players, I should say. Then he just don't he got Travis Hunter right now. You consider one of the best uh, athletes as far as DB and wide receiver talent in the nation last year. So what is people talking about?
Bro, like we talked about last week. Uh, it's just that a lot of these, and initially I thought it was just J State fans, but from what I'm seeing on social media, it's people all across the SWAC, or just people that has a pro black mindset in general. They they have like this scorn level syndrome where you know, hey, you're moving on to something bigger and better. Like no, you shouldn't leave me. You should stay with me. But the fact that you left me and you're going on to bigger and better things, like I have a problem with that. I'm wishing you ill will going out the door. And
Hmm.
bro, if anything, you should be happy that he came to the SWAC. He gave the swag a certain shine and a certain spotlight that the swag has never seen. Really, I'm gonna be truthful, ever really.
Hmm.
So like, instead of us just saying, "Hey, bro, it was an excellent time," just being grateful. Because I'm not gonna lie, like last year when those J State fans came to AW, like that was the best home game Southern had the whole year. I mean, as a Southern alum and a Southern fan. So like, I don't understand like why all these J State and why all these SWAC alum, why they just trashing him, why they wishing him ill will and so on and so forth. Man, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, it is. And Jay Good making good points in the chat, and um, so he's saying speaking on time to build the program and his philosophy of to elevate or terminate. Shador is there for 2 years. Don't expect a mainstay, especially if the school struggles. Also, he also said, and this I never thought of, Coach, and Jay Good making me think. I've never seen him coach without Shador, even in high school. And I'm here in Texas, so I remember him when he brought that Christian school from the ground up to be a powerhouse here in Texas, in Texas high school. And guess who he had with him? Quarterbacking, Shador.
Shador. All right, so even when he was at Prime Prep Academy, yeah, Shador wasn't there.
Prime Prep. I'm not sure.
I mean, I don't think every game he ever coached, he's always had Shador. I mean, I'm certain at some point,
Not
you know,
every game, but what Jay Good is saying, like high school level, that's pretty impactful. College, pretty impactful. So the
mhm.
impactful parts of his coaching career, he always had Shador.
Well, I mean, you got to realize this too. He's already on record saying that he never wants to coach in the NFL. So just say Shador graduates, Shador does make it to the NFL. Him and Shiloh or whatever, one or both. Just say that.
Hmm.
And at some point, Florida State comes because we know he graduated from Florida State. He was interested in the Florida State job, but basically they told him, "Hey, you got to go get some experience." He has it now, especially if he does well at Colorado. I'm almost certain they're gonna want him then. So maybe he'll move on to Florida State, or maybe he'll stay at Colorado. It just kind of depends on how things play out.
Yeah. Okay. And Jay Good is also saying even in rec league as prime troop select before prime prep high school, he's always done this for his son. And Jay Good, I believe Jay Good originally from Texas too, so he know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Jay Good. I think you're originally from Texas, brother. Not trying to put your business out there like that. I'm just as far as us knowing what's going on in the high school, and players come out of the Texas. Um, uh, I born and raised. Yes, he said born and raised. So he said
Yeah.
he been had his son. So, one thing I gotta, and you may not know what I'm talking about, Coach, but me and Jay Good probably know a little about being a Texas boy. Shout out to Coach Samples.
Oh,
Coach
Oak Cliff or
Samples is a
Duncanville?
Duncanville.
Duncanville. Well, you got to
Duncanville. They.
realize his brother uh, coaches at a powerful high school here
Hmm.
here. In fact, it's right down the street from Southern Scottletville High. So that's it. That's Coach Sample's brother, from what
I
I
didn't know
understand.
that, but I got it
Yeah.
because I was at Dallas Skyline for me and my brother. We were about to um, play for him at Dallas Skyline. But good treated me, my brother. I mean, good coach, man. But he been chasing that championship for years. In 2004, in the
Well, I think they
Leaking
said
ISD,
there was his sixth try, right?
he previous years at Duncanville, North Shore kept kicking him out. When he was at Dallas
Yeah, that's right.
Skyline, when he was at Dallas Skyline, he'll make real deep, uh, tries, and he kept getting kicked out, but getting put out the playoffs. But this yesterday, he he finally got him one. So shout out to Coach Reginald Samples, man. It was good to hear.
Yeah, his like I was saying, his brother Carlos Sample is a head basketball coach at Scotlandville High, and he's won multiple state championships. In fact, they won state last year in basketball. They probably gonna win it again this year.
Yeah,
But
yeah, and Jay Good
and
said all of Dion's kids grew up and play here in Dallas Fort Worth area. Yeah, his oldest played at I want to say Cedar Hill for a little bit. I think Coach Sample, yeah, Coach Sample is the godfather of high school football on the southern sector of Dallas. His son is on the Arizona State staff. Yeah, I walked the whole halls with Devontae and uh, his son. So yeah,
oh
Coach
oh
Sample's a legend, man. He just couldn't get that big win, but he did last night. So he was already a
yeah
legend. And he
oh
became legendary. Go ahead, Coach. I'm sorry.
oh and shout out to Oak Cliff because I know the LDBC got a lot of members that went to Oak Cliff. So shout out to them too.
They got them a second one. Man.
Yeah.
I because I know how them I'm just saying how the system back in the '90s took because they didn't want them boys to have it. They took Dallas Carter championship because a couple of knuckleheads wanted to rob people, so they used that as an excuse to take their championship. But Duncanville and South Oak Cliff, they and DeSoto too. DeSoto won a championship as well in football. So all them Dallas area team, they redeemed it. They can't say nobody cheated now.
Yeah, I'm sure we got like LDBC members like Nick J and like Black Fight Thing that's ecstatic that Oak Cliff got one and all the other Dallas teams. Congratulations to them.
Yes, Duncan, DeSoto, and South Oak Cliff all state championships this weekend. Black schools, all black head coaches. 11 miles apart between the three. History was made. People don't understand, Jay Good. People don't understand. History definitely was made, and this and this. I'm gonna tell you how good of a Coach Samples was. Once he left, because he made Dallas Skyline a powerhouse. Once he left Dallas Skyline, look at him now. Look at Dallas Skyline now. Trash.
Wow. And
Trash.
the crazy thing, the crazy
I
thing
think
about it is
teams
my
like Molina and Sunset maybe can beat them now. But go ahead.
the crazy thing about it is the same thing y'all just said. My coach's friend, he texted me this last night about Coach Samples in Duncanville and South Oak Cliff and everything y'all saying. He was saying that like in Louisiana and in Texas, you know, essentially black schools pretty much was able to win state championships and pretty much in the big boy classes. Here in Louisiana, 4A, 5A, in Texas with, Duncanville, so on and so forth. So, he pointed that out to me last night when he texted me.
Yeah, man. I mean, I'm so proud of them young men and them coaches, man. They making history. Represent for the D. You know what I mean? D town, man. Man, but that's probably all we're gonna talk about today, Coach. Um, good, good football. I'm not even gonna talk about the NFL. My Baltimore Ravens disappointed me again. Um, but before we leave here, anything you want to say before we go? And of course, shout out to the mighty LDBC. Go ahead, Coach.
You already know what I'm about to say. Shout out to the awesome and amazing LDBC. Uh, you know, I'm still recovering over the flu because I told you I had the flu at the end of last week.
Oh
So I'm
man.
finally starting to get back. So I'm getting ready to upload a bunch of new videos. Uh, Boxing, swag, Coach Prime. Everything that I've been holding, I'm gonna upload in the next few days. So
Yeah. So
look out
please
for yeah.
go ahead, Coach.
Subscribe to the channel. Subscribe to the channel, like the videos, share the videos, the whole nine. So a lot of videos are coming in the next few days.
Yeah, so please go to the brother, Coach 67 Sports TV. Good brother, know what he talking about. He's a coach himself, so he's not just um, running his mouth. Good content, so please like the brother, share his video, click that like button. As I wish you would do hope you would do my show. The few people that came here, Jay Good, I love you, brother. Love you, big bro.
Yeah, shout out.
Um,
Major shout out
thank
to Get Good, man. He is big a part of the show as we are. So
Heck yeah,
shout
I'm
out to
thinking
Get Good.
about making one day bringing them on. We could just talk, just chop it up, man, one show. Um, but I mean, this is fun, man. This is fun. Uh, but y'all have a blessed day. Be safe out here. Y'all make sure y'all covered in the blood. 'Cause people crazy out
In
here.
fact, in fact, bro, before we log off, one
Yes, sir.
let everybody know when we gonna do this again.
Oh, we gonna do this again Sunday. Every Sunday at 5 p.m.
Sunday Chris
Central Standard Time.
Sunday
Oh,
Christmas not
Christmas. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. That's why you said it. My apologies.
yeah.
So we probably gonna end up. Hmm. We're gonna do it Monday then. We're gonna do it Monday
All right,
because
all
I'm
right.
off. I'm off from work. I took this week coming up and the following Monday and Tuesday off. So we'll do it Monday.
Yeah, well, hey, just let me know, bro, whenever, because I got the next 2 weeks off. So
All right, bet. But y'all have a blessed day. Thank y'all for watching. Shout out to the mighty LDBC. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday night.
peace and blessings, everyone.